Hi everyone, Tyler Manion here, FBC IFBB Pro League Vice President. This will be your Texas Pro recap for Bikini. So in first, we had Issa. I think Issa brought another very, very good package to the show. For them, I think they tried bring her in a little less full than Tampa. Overall, I would say that worked. I think her midsection looked much better than it did in Tampa. However, the glutes didn't pop quite the same as they did in Tampa. So for Issa, just the main thing, from now until the Olympia is to keep doing what they've been doing and improve, the glute and the glute tie-in area. That would be the main thing because for her, you don't want to see such deep lines in her legs. It's always the worry with her for her physique. So they're still finding that perfect mix. I think doing these shows were some great data they could gather. So she brings in that perfect combination of fullness and conditioning to the Olympia. Obviously, she has an amazing front pose. Nothing really she needs to change there. It's just really nailing that back pose, improving it, and getting that perfect conditioning because, as everybody knows for Bikini, that perfect peak is definitely the separator when we get to the top. When the girls up at the top of the Olympia have such great physiques, it's really about who shows up perfect on that day. That's what always happens. So again, I think, like I said, last year, there was definitely a clear separation from what the girls brought from the top three to the next three and below. This package that Issa brought blows away her package that she brought to the Olympia last year. And I think she's going to be fighting for one of those top spots again. In second, we had Tamikia. So for Tamikia, I think she definitely improved from what she was bringing earlier this year until now. I think the overall balance and the overall fullness in her lower body was much, much better than we were seeing before. Her conditioning overall was also much better than we saw earlier this year. Now for her, there's two main things. It's number one is she needs to grow her overall glutes just a little bit more to achieve that balance with the glutes and the legs and the overall physique. You can see that from the front pose, but especially from the back pose. And the second thing would be is I think her conditioning was great overall. When she was in her back pose, the conditioning looked very good. However, once we made them walk, once we made her walk, but also even just moving around, transitioning between the poses, you can see that the conditioning in the glutes was not the same as it was everywhere else in the legs and her whole entire body. So making sure that she gets that same conditioning in the glutes as she has everywhere else to her overall physique will be a big key for her as well. Those are the two main things. Obviously, she has a great structure and great overall look for Bikini. And I think she's definitely back on the right track from where she was at earlier this year. In third, we had Lisa. Now, for Lisa, I think the number one main thing for her that hurt her at the show was her hair was much too long. In the back pose specifically, her hair was so long that it was cutting off the upper part of her glutes. And this goes back to we can only judge what we can see. And I think this was a big differentiator between second and third place here because this was definitely the best combination in overall conditioning of fullness and conditioning that Lisa has ever brought in front of me at a show. This is definitely right where we want to see for Bikini, right where she needs to be. I think she finally found that look that works very, very well for her. But the back pose with the hair covering all the upper glutes, it really hurt because not only in the pose, but also walking, we can't see the overall shape and fullness to the upper glutes, which hinders our ability to judge the pose. I also think she can pose, again, in the front pose, much more relaxed and natural. She overposes and overarches a lot. It's only going to enhance her overall balance and the proportions in her front pose if she's able to do this. I know backstage they showed me a different front pose that I think would have looked much, much better. But for her, it's really fixing the hair, continuing to work on the front pose, and she can have just a touch more depth to the glutes. But I think they found that combination that she should bring to the Olympia this year, and I think she can do much better than she did last year at the Olympia this year. In fourth, we had Lana. So for Lana, She just needs to improve her overall fullness again. She needs to be really with the whole physique, a little bit more fullness to the upper body, the lower body, and the glutes as well. Her proportions and balance are very, very good. She presents herself very well. The conditioning is really where it needs to be, because if you get too tight, I think she's going to become too thin on stage. Sure, it needs more fullness to her whole entire physique. So that conditioning is where we want to see. It's just we need more fullness because it's going to make everything pop that much more. But she has a great structure and overall balance. So as they continue to work on this, I know she's going to work her way back up and be a very dangerous competitor to handle. This will be the Texas Pro recap for women's physique. So we had a very, very competitive and deep lineup at the show this past weekend. In first place, we had Zama. And in second, we had Alyssa. I think it was a very close show between these two. The main things that Zama can work on for her physique are she needs a little bit more muscle and detail throughout her hamstrings. I think that's really the only weak point in her physique. The second thing she needs to do is work on her posing. She definitely can hit the poses much better and show off her physique much better. She has really nice fullness and roundness to her muscle. That's very evident in person. So posing to show that off even better will make a big difference. Obviously, she was third place last year at the Olympia. And if she wants to move up and challenge the top two, other than the hamstrings, I think how she poses is going to make a big difference. Along with how she poses, she also needs to work on her posing conditioning as well. When she first comes out, I think she looks and her physique looks much better than as we had to pose them a lot because I think it was very close between her and Alyssa. So the posing conditioning definitely needs to come up because at the Olympia, obviously, you're going to be posed like this, and that will be a big thing for her. But she has all the tools to really step in there and finally challenge the top two girls, Sarah and Natalia, in the world. For Alyssa, I think Alyssa made a lot of improvements just from last year to this year. I would say the main things that she needs to continue to work on is obviously the main improvement was her back, but still the overall back needs to improve. The width and the thickness to the back, that was obviously a main deciding factor here. Also, the abs. She needs, deeper and more detailed abs. The abs were very flat and just not deep. So that's two poses right there. I mean, the front double bicep, you see that Zama has very, very nice V-taper. Her quads are very nice and full with crazy quad sweep. For Alyssa, she has a nice front double bicep as well. She displays herself very well. However, you just see the difference in not only the taper, but also that fullness and roundness look to the legs. Alyssa's quads are very good, but that's probably Zama's strongest point is her quads from the front. The side chest pose, they both can work on posing the side chest pose better. Alyssa really over-exaggerated how she was posing in the side chest. Zama wasn't positioned in quite the right way to show off all the details of her physique that was needed. So for me, I lean towards giving Alyssa this pose, especially towards the end. As I said, Zama needs to work on her posing conditioning. Alyssa's posing conditioning was very, very good, even with her overexerting herself and overextending in the side chest. It could be better, but as we went along posing him, I think she ended up winning this pose. The back double bicep, again, if Zama's squats from the front on her strongest suit, then definitely her depth and detail and just that 3D look to the back are. Like I said, she needs more detail to the hamstrings here in this back double to really complete it, but it's still overall a very, very strong back double bicep pose. Alyssa's improved and came up a lot, but the overall detail and density and width to her back still needs to improve. Obviously, this girl was Zama was top 3 in the world last year. So Alyssa hanging top with it shows a big improvement because last year it would have been a very, very easy victory in this pose for Zama. But I think Alyssa improved a ton to at least make it competitive, but it was still a clear pose for Zama. Side tricep, Zama really doesn't hit this pose well at all. She needs to change up she needs to change up how she's flexing her arm, the direction she has her torso in, the placement of her leg, Everything really could be changed on this pose for her to show it off much better. For Alyssa, she just needs to make sure that she actually hits the side tricep pose, in the proper way before she goes to her hybrid pose that's facing front. We have to see her judge from the side. It doesn't matter how good her variation of the side tricep pose is when she's facing front, because she's facing to the front. So, she would hit it to the side for barely a second. I mean, at this show, it was okay because we posed them enough. We had enough time to see what she would look like in that pose. Just even the way she would hit it quickly, it still showed off her physique and flow and balance and details overall better than the way Zama was hitting it. But she posed to the front a lot, so if she would make the Olympia, that would definitely hurt her in the call-outs. But here, I could see giving her the side tricep pose, and then the last pose was the abdominal and thigh pose. Again, a very, very strong pose for Zama, because all throughout you see the quads, the abs, everything is separated, everything is popping, everything looks good. I actually think Zama can hit the pose in a little bit better to even show off her taper and flow a little bit better, but just because of that fullness and roundness look to the muscle and the separation, it's a very strong pose. For Alyssa, she hits the pose and shows us off very, very well. It's just the ab and the ab detail, especially at prejudging, was just not quite up to par of where it needs to be. I think she actually looked better at the finals. She was popping a little bit more overall with her physique, a little bit tighter. But at prejudging, she just didn't have that detail there, so the midsection looked a little washed out. Obviously, the midsection plays a huge role in the ab and thigh pose. So this pose went to Zama. Again, very close show between the two, but two great competitors of women's physique. If Alyssa decides to go on and do another show this year, she's going to be very hard to take out. I think she could be very competitive with the upper echelon at the Olympia this year if she qualifies. In third place, we had Jeanette. I think Jeanette brought a great package overall. The conditioning was on point. Her separation, her muscularity, her overall fullness was on point. The main thing she needs to work on is her back. She needs more depth and detail to her back. And the number one thing she needs is more width to her back. That's the main thing she's missing with her physique. The arms, the shoulders, the legs, everything looks very, very good. Her conditioning was very good. Adding that width is just going to make all of her poses look that much better. So a very strong performance by her. And she's another competitor that I think people will have a hard time dealing with going forward. In fourth, we had Sharonika. So for her, the number one thing she needs to work on is bringing up her overall leg size. She needs more to the quads, she needs more side leg, and she needs more hamstrings and more width to the back in her legs. Her back double bicep, also her back itself could have more density and detail to it. She needs more of that 3D look to her back pose. Other than that, she has a very nice physique overall. You see she has a nice taper. She poses very, very well. She displays her physique very well. Her conditioning is on point. She has nice muscle separation too. Just bringing up those weak points, if she could bring up the overall legs a good bit more, that would completely change her physique. The back needs some work, but not as much as the legs. So if she does that, she'll continue to improve. And I know she'll be at the Olympia since she won New York this year, and she should have a competitive showing there.